we do, especially on Purim, requires from us to be in a correct preparation, in other words, in connection between us. And that's why the preparation is a good preparation. Purim is a good preparation for the connection that will come and now and that we'll have later. This whole holiday needs to be in connection, a great connection, and we have an ability to draw the special lights of Purim. So please.
Haman pockets. Concerning the eating of the Haman tashim, meaning Haman's pockets, he said that since man must be intoxicated on Purim until he cannot tell between the evil Haman and the blessed Mordechai, we eat Haman pockets. This is so that we will remember that Haman did not give us more than pockets, vessels, and not the interior. This means that it is only possible to receive Haman's kelim, the vessels, and not the lights, called internality. This is so because the vessels of reception are in Haman's domain, and this is what we must take away from him. However, it is impossible to extend lights with the kelim of Haman. This occurs specifically through the kelim of Mordechai, which are vessels of bestowal, but the vessels of reception were restricted. And this is explained in the verse, "Now Haman said in his heart, whom would the king delight to honor besides myself?" This is called a real will to receive. This is why he said, "Let royal apparel be brought, which the king uses to wear, and the horse that the king rides upon," etc. But in truth, Haman's vessels, called vessels of reception, do not receive anything because of the tzimtzum, the restriction. All he has is a desire and a deficiency, meaning he knows what to ask. This is why it is written, "Then the king said to Haman, Make haste, and take the apparel and the horse, as thou hast said, and do even so to Mordechai the Jew." This is called the lights of Haman in the vessels of Mordechai, in the vessels of bestowal.
Questions? It means that we have the vessels of reception that are called the tools of Haman, but they can't be in use as tools of reception in order to receive. We have to bring from these vessels, we need to clean it from the tools of reception in order to get to the lights of Mordechai, and then come to, in order to receive, in order to bestow. And that's all that's at the end of the question. That's what we're talking about. And that's why these cookies that we're eating during Purim, they're called the Haman's pockets, because the pockets of Kabbalah belong to Haman. And the intentions are from Mordechai. Yes.
Can you explain why we need another language except the language of Kabbalah? Why do we have this story? Not only of bestowal and receiving, but we have other names.
There are people who do not belong to the study of Kabbalah because their desire to receive is separated into Aleph, Bet, Gimel, 3 degrees, and there's 125 on the ladder, and they have all these directions of the sulamot, of the ladders, of the desires to receive. And like we see in our world, where there's people who are drawn to many different professions, and many different levels, and many different tastes, and different intentions. And so I can't say right now that I'm explaining it, the nature, according to all these laws of gravity, of Newton, You can't. You have these systems, yes, and these systems you can explain in equations. Yeah, very good. But there are some people who can't understand it that way. They can't understand it. And they're in this world, and they need to in some way be able to use the laws of nature, because they're in nature too. So you need to have an explanation, a definition of the laws of nature that doesn't have a language from to begin with. You have to bring them many languages according to the types of people that are in the corporeal reality. That's why you have the language of Midrash, the language of Torah, the language of Kabbalah, and all of these other languages of the Haggadah. And all these languages are divided into more and more. And all of this you need because for every type of person, there's a language of his own. You can go to a store and show a book that you have, let's say, to the store clerk, and according to the book that you show him, he can tell you to whom that book is suitable for, if it's for men, if it's for women, for children, or to older people, or what technical abilities they have, or psychological abilities they have. So how can we have just one language? It's not correct. And besides that, we can't explain everything in one language. It's impossible. If our soul, the neshama, has all of these degrees, and each degree has its own coarseness and its own expression, that's it. So, of course, you can say that we need these vessels of reception in order to bestow, and that's what's called Purim. That's it. And who will understand that? Who will understand that in their vessels of... who will understand what a vessel of reception is? In other languages, you can explain it to them in order for them to understand. If you're talking about the Torah, in Torah, there's a big... They have 72 definitions, explanations. And there's many different ways. Because for every expression, it's going to be endless. Okay? Okay, good. So we'll continue.
נעבור לעמוד 542, מאמר שמעתי למ"ב, גורל וסוד התערותא דלעילא.
We're reading Shemati 32, a lot is an awakening from above.
גורל הוא סוד התעוררות מלמעלה.
A lot is an awakening from above, when the lower one does not assist in anything. This is the meaning of cast pur, the lot. Haman was complaining and said, neither keep they the king's laws. It means that enslavement begins for the worker in a state of lo lishma, not for her name, meaning for self-reception. Hence, why was the Torah given to them? Because afterwards they are granted lishma, and they are given the lights and the attainment of supremacy. Then comes the complainant and asks, why are they given these sublime things for which they did not work and did not hope, but their every thoughts and goals were only things that concern their own needs, called lo lishma? This is the meaning of, the wicked may prepare it, but the just will wear it. It means that he was previously working in a state of wicked, meaning lo lishma, but for the receiver. Afterwards, he was awarded lishma, meaning that all the work enters the domain of kedusha, the sanctity, meaning everything to bestow. This is the meaning of, the just will wear it. This is the meaning of Purim as Yom Kippurim. Purim is an awakening from above, And Yom Kippurim is an awakening from below, meaning through repentance. However, there is awakening from above, there too, corresponding to the lots that were there. One lot for the Lord and the other lot for Azazel, and the Creator is the scrutinizer.
Questions? Yes.
Rav, Purim comes from Pur, from fate.
Yes, love.
And fate comes from above. And there's no real way for the created being to interpret. Within the 10, can we change the fates?
Correct it through the 10? Or how? Or through the connection, the strength, the force of the connection. And we're able to change fate? Yes, of course. Why else would we have our work?
How can you change fate by connection? If I don't even know what this is.
You are in a very flexible system. Very flexible. That if you... How can I say it? If you are found within different types of relations with the people with you in the system, and you raise the connection, and from that connection you get some kind of special relation, special color, yearning. It all depends on your exertion. You decide your fate. It's not that it comes from above. From above comes information, and that information depends on how you use that information.
But within the connection, within the group, in this desire to change the fate, can you change the fate of a single person?
Only within the general, within the group. Within the individual, within the individual. When you want to change the general, then the individual also goes through those changes. Yes.
You said that from above we receive the data, and the result is really dependent upon the... What does that mean that the data comes from above? Can you actually just expand on that sentence?
Yes, the data comes from above. And in what way are we now? In what situation? In what state? It's in the state that we need to be next. And how do we get to that next degree? Whether it's through Achishena or Beito, it depends on us. Have you heard about that or not? I feel that you're not listening. Have you heard that there's two ways, the Beito and Achishena? Yes. Is there anything else that depends on us? No? Okay, so you have one data set and the second data set, and you need to go from first state to the second state, and you have two ways. That's it. It's very simple. The system is very concrete. It works really like 1 or 0, like a computer. That's it. You either decide if you want to use the tools, the vessels of reception or the vessels of bestowal. And with one click you can progress. It's very clearly defined. That's why it's written in the way of tasks, the different degrees, and going from Dalet to Gimel, from onwards, and everything is really like clockwork. Very precise. What more can you add? Your exertion in that direction, and from there you don't go in just some niche. It doesn't go into some waiting period. And that's the way you progress. Is that all right? Okay, let's continue.
We're now going to read Shemati 136, the difference between the first letters and the last letters. The difference between the first letters and the last letters is only in the copy of the writing, meaning the content of the writing that was given of the king's house, and the king's authors expand the content to make it understandable for all. The content was merely that they should be ready against that day, and the authors interpreted it as applying to the nations, that they are destined to avenge the Jews. And that force was so that Haman would think, "Whom would the king delight to honor besides myself?" Hence, in the last letters he specifically wrote, straight from the king, that the Jews should be ready. Conversely, in the first letters, he did not specifically write the Jews. This is why they had the strength to complain. The thing is that this force was given because one should not justify any desire for reception of lights to extend the upper lights below, as the whole work was to bestow. Hence, he cannot extend something from below. Hence, by giving strength to Haman, he specifically wants the greater lights, as his name testifies. Haman the Agagit, the gag or roof of the degree which is Gar.
There's something here that we also talked about in the morning lesson, where we need to, at the end of correction, we need to be in a stage where we're receiving all of the light that the Creator has created for us, and we're able to bestow in a way that we're able to return it to Him. We're able to reach that whole adhesion with Him. And how do we do this? First, we need to define these vessels of reception in a way that our vessels of reception, we think that they are for the purpose of to be filled infinitely. That's what we saw in our personal development. In this world, we are always running after everything we could in order to grow our vessel of reception. And that's all we thought about. If we could add to it the vessels of bestowal in order to maximize the vessels of reception, then we did so in order to receive more and to bestow in order to receive. To bestow in order to receive, it's not something that's some kind of ancient invention. It's something that we can do through commerce, for the most part, that developed humanity. When it was quite quiet during the 1800s and the 1900s, and really in the 20th century, that's when it developed the most. Towards the last generation. And after we've used all of these tools of reception, maximize them, we see that we can't do with them anything. And then we go on to the tools of bestowal. It's not simple. That's what we're talking about during Purim, that it's through threats and problems. Because how can it be that the vessels of bestowal will rule our world? Because there's nothing in them. Even in this world, you see what it means to bestow, to be a good friend, to be good and beautiful. There's nothing like that. It's all children's stories, fairy tales. Who needs it? Mordechai comes and we come to the gates of the king and we see that we need to understand the idea. That's very not simple. And we need to understand that the vessels of bestowal need to determine for us. What does that mean? That we have to make a tzimtzum on the vessels of reception and build onto the vessels of bestowal, and on the vessels of reception we add the vessels of bestowal. It's kind of a cycle that's not easy to comprehend. It's very strange that humanity needs to go through. We need to go from using the vessels of reception the way it was. Everyone used it as much as they can, and then go where we feel that's it. We're at the point where we can't develop any further. We're at really a dead end, and we can't do anything more. And so what do? And that's where we discover that we can continue, not with the vessels of reception, because there's nothing left to receive there. We maximize them, truly to every potential they had, to the end of the road, for war, for everything. And then what happens? We have to move on to the vessels of bestowal. And the way that we use the vessels of bestowal, and once we're there and only then will we be able to use the vessels of reception correctly and reach the end of correction. So we had the development of a man that was on the horse, and then on the horse we had Mordechai, because he led the development of the vessels of bestowal, and then we used the vessels of reception too. Okay, and that's what we were talking about in the Megillah, first Megillah, and when we were talking about Aman, and in the Megillah, second Megillah, we were talking about Mordechai. Okay? Okay, if you agree, we can continue.
Constantine
from Novosibirsk asks, is Israel chaste of all this throughout all the steps until the end of connection?
Not through all of the degrees, until Israel is really seen as Yishal El by all of the world. And then there's a process. And until then, yes, of course. Even here we see in the Megillah, the Jews were divided among all the nations. They were all suppressed. And a man who said, I'm going to destroy them, is the one that opens the final degree, the final stage. And he starts to scrutinize on the last degree, where our soul reaches that point where we want to control and rule, and then we see that we cannot rule. What do we need to do? And we discover the new method, that only through the vessels of bestowal can we develop without end. And the vessels of reception are limited. And that's the way we reveal within that crisis. Okay, you'll ask a question, and is there translation?
Okay. It's okay? Can I go? Have in the history, the queen, Esther,
בסיפור ההיסטורי, המלכה אסתר,
she passed through a process.
היא עוברת תהליך.
So the king enjoyed her.
והמלך נהנה ממנה.
We are talking. You just talked that if Israel didn't take the role in the history.
אמרת שאם ישראל לא ממלא את התפקיד ההיסטורי, אם אישה לא ממלאת את התפקיד שלה,
it will remain being persecuted.
אם ישראל לא ממלא את התפקיד שלו,
no. So Easter is a symbol of the whole Israel that takes its job, or the part of the people that will take its job, as you said in the morning. If that is just two people, it
sentence by sentence,
the work can go, keep doing it. Okay.
Repeat, please.
I'll repeat again. Esther is a symbol of the whole Israel, or she's a symbol of the people that decided to took the job.
There's what's called Yudim, Jews. Those are the vessels, the kilim, that are divided among all the nations. Like I called croutons in the soup, that are tied to all these places, and that's why they can't function. And what is their function? I'll draw for you. Once there was a kli of Adam Rishon, and in that kli there was a seed. I don't know how to do it a bit better. It's like this. That kli was Israel. And this is the nations of the world. And Israel was part of, they were the part that was connected to the Creator. And through them, the upper light would reach all of the other Kelim. And then there was a shattering that shattered all of, and then all of the parts that shattered, Israel was part of all the other parts. All of the other parts like this. They're found amongst all of them. Now, that's after the shattering, after the sin of Adam Rishon. Now we need to go back. We can't go back to any other way. We have to go back to how it was, where we have degrees of coarseness. Roots, shorish, aleph, gimel, dalet. Hey? That's the way we need to correct everything. We need to, first of all, scrutinize what is Israel and bring Israel to the top of the pyramid. That is called Israel. Afterwards, organize it for the nations of the world. Because the nations are a very difficult coarseness, very large, that can't be corrected on its own, only through the small kilim, the pure kilim that are called Israel. That's why all of the light passes through Israel to the nations. That's it. And how do you do it? You do it by, first of all, developing opposite to the world, we develop first the nations, develop them through the ego, and then we make it necessary for Israel to also develop, and then they continue to develop the nations. Tomorrow we'll talk about it more. I see that there's what to explain here.
So, do we have enough people to change the world already?
Yes, of course. That's not a problem. It doesn't depend on the amount of people. It depends on the desire. That's it. One person can change the world. In spirituality, it doesn't go according to quantity. Okay, so we have to go downstairs? Yes? All right, that's it. We're going downstairs to read the Megillah. What I'm asking of everyone while we're reading the Megillah, think that we are together. And what we're reading in the Megillah is influencing us until we are one Kli. That's the most important thing. Please.